going to call this meeting to order. Robbie Horvat, who is potentially going to be our chairman of the board, was not able to be here today. So Gretchen and I are going to kind of tag team. We have a lot of new members here. I think we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think the first thing we'll do is go around and introduce ourselves since there are a lot of new members. So I'll start. I'm Jill Dunlap, Secretary for Westmead Township.
Gretchen Myers, City of Meadville City Council.
Joe Chris, zoning officer, Sudbury Township.
John Leffingwell, Pine Township.
Chris Seeley, Crawford County Commissioner.
Roxy Fucci, Union Township.
Terry Simonette, East Mead Township.
Ron Irwin, Crawford Central School District.
Kimberly Maurer, City of Meadville, Meadville Area Sewer Authority.
Dan Proceed, Concord and Borough.
John Sherrill, Westmead Township Supervisor.
I'm Bill Leonard from Berkheimer, the earned income and LST collector for the Crawford County Tax Collection District.
And I'm Terry Kunkel with the Governor's Center for Local Government.
Nice. Thank you for coming. For the reorganization, that's our first administrative matter. Roxy Fucci from Union Township, if you would take the floor.
To begin with, I want to thank everybody who serves. It's really helpful and appreciated. For our board members for 2024, I am nominating for Chairman Robert Horvat, Vice Chairman Gretchen Myers, Secretary Jill Dunlap, and Treasurer Renee Hayes for the board.
So you made a motion?
I made a motion to.
Anybody? Terry? So anybody opposed or vote all approved, I'd say then, right? Aye.
I would also like to make a motion for the subcommittees for 2024. For the Tire Electronic Recycling Committee, Chairman Brenda Schmidt, members Charlie Bauer and Terry Simonette. For the nominating committee, I'll continue to serve if it's so wished. Members are Jill Dunlap and Jennifer McClemens. For the membership committee, Chairman Fritz Schneider, members Joe Christ and Donnie Keene. Audit committee, Rose Moomaw, members Deborah Merritt and Caitlin Lopez. For the gas and energy subcommittee, Chairman John Leffingwell, members Bob Ackerman and Kevin Keene.
So you made that motion?
Make a motion.
Anyone want a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Again, I just want to say thank you to everybody who serves. It really helps.
It's all volunteers, so everybody's a volunteer. Approval of the minutes of October 19th, which were enclosed in your packet. Anybody want to make a motion to
I
approve?
move to approve.
Second.
I go to.
We'll put Dan as I saw his hand go up, right? So, all in favor?
Aye.
The next item is to approve the Tribune bill to pay and then the treasurer's report, which was included in your packet. The Tribune bill is for $87.75, and Rob Horvat took care of that. As long as we can send it out, he prepared the check. And then the treasurer's report is for the trial balance as the end of December 31st. So any questions on the proposal? Somebody want to make a motion to?
So moved to accept.
I'll second.
All approved or in favor?
Aye.
And then the last item, Renee Hayes was not able to be here either at the last minute, but we're recommending to approve the change to First National Bank. That's where is more convenient for her since she's becoming the new treasurer now instead of Rob Horvat and Amy Stedman from Vernon. And then the signature cards will need to be updated. So we have a motion to approve the change to First National and update the signature cards.
I'll make that motion.
So Roxy and then John, do you want to second it?
Also.
Nothing at all. And then the next thing I can send over to you, Gretchen, if you want to introduce Terry Kunkel and Bill Leonard, or if you want to talk about it, or just let them start.
I know.
Up to you.
Well, these guys have already introduced themselves. It would be good to know a little bit more about you. Like if you want to maybe before you start, like tell us a little bit more about you before you go into your like how did you ever get involved with the DCD and the
Well, let's say, my background is in nursing.
how well?
So it's a little different journey. But back 10, well, I sat in the administrative seat for close to almost 15 years before. I started with DCD during that tenure with a peer. DCD has what we call peer assistance. It's we can assist administrative, public works. We have specialists throughout the state, and they can be assigned to come in and help you if you have a problem. I started as a peer with DCD in 2012, and then almost 5 years ago, I took the position in the Northwest full-time. So I always say, I'm not a good state employee. And I say that in jest, because I'm here to try to help you. I'm salaried at 37.5 hours a week, and I never work probably less than 50, because I know what it's like to sit in that seat. I know what it's like to call and need an answer right away. So if I don't answer you, there's a problem, call me again, email me again. I'm here to work for you. I'm here to help you. Like I said, I get it. I know the struggles, and they're real.
As I said before, my name is Bill Leonard. I'm Berkheimer Taxes Innovations, and we've been the Crawford County Tax Collection District collectors since 2012 when Act 32 went into effect. Prior to that, we had done some the collections in Conneaut School District. We have some municipalities, Titusville area school district. I was born in Pittsburgh. Now I became a tax collector. Was normal children grow up to want to be especially males and now females too. Baseball player, football player. I had a goal to be a tax collector. That was supposed to be fun. That was a little joke. Sorry, it's bad. I know. Anyhow, no. So I went to.
Bill, tax collectors weren't very popular.
No, I know we were. People told me that. Something about the Bible that we were
I
proud of.
I think it goes way back.
Yeah. A company my father worked for moved to the Scranton area out of Pittsburgh, and I was like 13 or 14 years old. I went to college out in that area, went to high school out in that area, went to college, and pretty decent in math. So I became majored in that in accounting in college, and started working for Berkheimer in 1977. Worked in the Wilkes-Barre office in doing collections and magistrate cases, etc. And then in 1981, we as Berkheimer started expanding to the western part of the state. So now this is going to be another semi-joke. So the owner of the company, John Berkheimer, said to me, he said, we want to expand, we want to move out into the western part of the state, and you know what yins means. So you could go out, if you don't mind going out to Allegheny County and Erie County. So I started moved into Erie County, lived in Mill Creek Township in Erie County. And I have the whole western part of the state. And as we continue to expand our footprint in western Pennsylvania, I just stayed up in the northern part of the state. So my territory is kind of from Butler County up to Erie County, and then out to the east to McKean County. And as I said, I started in 47, so 77. So I've been, with Berkheimer on a regular, for 45 plus years. I'm semi-retired, where I'm went from full-time to part-time, which the only thing difference was a kind of a drop in salary, and then but still working, not as much as Terry does, but I'm available to and handle any issues, problems, meetings for Berkheimer in northwestern Pennsylvania. And if anybody's gone to statewide conventions, I usually attend statewide, both boroughs, school districts, and townships. So it's kind of and as Terry said one time, very seldom we both of us at a lack for work. So that's what I'm going to try to cut it down. So, but that's basically my background.
Great, thanks so much. Thank you for coming. I know I talked with Jill about the LST and just kind of reforming taxes. Are you having is it possible to not have it just be so heavy on property tax? And we were like, well, who would know? And it's, so here's our experts right here. So thank you for coming all the way on this cold day to Crawford County. And if you just want to start, Terry, are you going first?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just, Warren County, what was it, about 2 years ago, they wanted Bill and I to do a presentation on taxes, and I'm like, are you sure? And I said, don't kill the messenger. It's a necessary evil in our world. So I have a quick PowerPoint that I'm just going to go through because there was a lot of questions that arose this time because a lot of people increased their real estate taxes and they hadn't done it for a long time and they weren't really sure how to do it. So I'm just going to go through the PowerPoint really fast, but I guess we'll just kind of start though with talking about taxes. You guys do a search out there for PELL, P-E-L-L, it's the Pennsylvania Economy League. They have a great article in taxation that just says it's not 1965 anymore. And if you just do a search, they did a great study, and then they really lobby to try for legislation to change for the way our tax structure is. It's antiquated, it really is. But that's a legislative change, and I have to tell you, from sitting in the seat, I go to our local government commission, and I'm always like, we need to change this. Come on, we need to change this. And then I get the ones that like, well, we might be able to change that, and then I get the ones that were like, oh, Terry, that's a heavy lift, So changing taxes is a heavy lift. But that doesn't prohibit you guys from talking to your legislators, saying what can be done. This is something maybe that needs change. The structure needs change. But taxation, first off, you have to understand it. To change it, you have to understand it. And a lot of times we don't understand it. So I put together this PowerPoint where municipal governing bodies make policy decisions, levy taxes, borrow money, authorize expenditures, and direct administration of their governments by their appointees. The scope of the functions and responsibilities are broad. That comes right from Title 53. And it is broad, and we do it for how much money. I always tell everybody, every audience, I always tell it takes 5 years to learn local government. And I say this now because Bill and I kind of share the same territory, but I have Lawrence County, 518 municipalities. Out of those 518, Mary Amen, the PennDOT financial consultant, shares them also. 189 new administrators in the last year. 189 out of 518 new administrators. So that position's rolling over, and I'll tell you why. This is why. Think of 5 years. The first year, whether you're elected, whether you're administrative, you're sitting there going, I'm doing this, and for how much money or no money? The second year, you're going, I think I did this last year. Wait a minute, I think I saved a copy. The third year, you know enough to be dangerous, and you think, oh. The fourth year, you're finally starting to get it, and then the fifth year, guess what happens? Government changes the way we do everything. Think of my path. Who would have ever thought that would be great to change my path in November? When we moved into that. But anyway, we're going to go over just a few of these, and I'm not going to elaborate real long on any of it. Taxation, it's on your real property, your personal belongings. It's existed for centuries. It is a necessary evil, and no one ever, I love to pay my taxes. But we need to maintain streets, fill the potholes, and do everything like that takes money. And I'll just, primary sources, we're just gonna go over it. Type of taxes, real estate, we've just said that. Real estate, is it a fair taxation process? But it is what it is. It's what we have to deal with. Only tax authorized by law to be levied by any class of local government. It's paid to the county, municipality, school district. It's on your assessed value. County is responsible for the assessment. We have a county commissioner here. Assessment hasn't taken place in Crawford County since 1969. 1969. But you're not alone. Crawford County is not alone out there. And how do I know this? I can tell you each one of my 13 counties because it's a big topic of conversation, assessed values. And it's levied by your mills. And for those of you, I always say this. When I go into a room to any elected official or any administrator, I always say, if I come to visit you, I want you to know two things. I want you to know what your millage rate is, and I want you to know what your assessed value is. You should always know what your assessed value is, because how do you make those financial decisions if you don't know how much money each mill is bringing you? So if you're assessed, your overall assessment is $3 million. If you move the decimal point 3 places, you're only going to get $3,000 a mill. And I say this because, don't kill the messenger, but I always say this when I go into a municipality or I go somewhere and somebody says, "Hi, I'm Joe. I've been elected official for 26 years. I did such a good job. I never raised taxes." I always say, "Joe, you didn't do a good job." Because now Mike that's going to take your position is going to have to raise those taxes, because for the last 26 years at home, didn't your job, did your wage not go up? Did your light bill not go up at home? Did the car not cost you 4 times more than what it does today? It did here too. It all went up here. And unfortunately, I'm the second highest paid in my small little municipality of taxes. I have a mile and a half of private road off of a township road. The farm in front of me is an 8-bedroom, 4-bath, 167 acres with 2 barns, and it pays $2,100 a year. My husband and I's house burnt down in 2001, and because we were new construction, we have 1/3 of the acreage and less bathrooms, less bedrooms, and we pay $4,800 a year. So, is it a fair structure? It's like we talked about. Is it fair? But I do want the roads maintained to get there. So it isn't, we go back to, it's an unnecessary evil. Millage rates are limited. Here's something else a lot of people don't know until you start to get to the top of that millage rate. General purpose is in second-class townships is 14 mills. That's it. And if you're only at $3 million, which some of your smaller municipalities are, that's a tough one. 30 mills for boroughs and cities, you're allowed an additional 5 mills, but you have to petition the court. And then special purpose. Municipal codes authorize taxing bodies to levy special purpose. One of the first things I tell everybody, if your money's going towards something that is a qualified, that is legal to be able to assess a special tax, then charge that tax for it. And because it's going there anyway, take it out of your general fund budget. Here's your borough special taxes. I'm not going to go over each one of them. There's limits. DCED's taxation manual is a very, very, very good, easy to understand manual about taxation, what you are, what you can, and what you're allowed to do. Just do a search, DCED taxation manual. It is very easy to read. It is a very good source. It all comes from the local tax collection law, and also what Bill was referring to, the Act 511 laws that with LST and Act 32 is. But anyway, they list everything in there, and it's always in your code books too, what taxes you're allowed to assess. That's all the ones in boroughs, first class townships, and then each one is different than second class townships. Now, we want to touch a little bit on fire. because that's been a big deal, and that was a big deal in Warren County, fire and emergency services. You can enact a 3 mil tax, up to 3 mils on fire for fire services, and you can enact up to 0.5. But I want to tell you, when you start talking special purpose taxes, remember, look at this and look at your code book to know how much you can. I had a municipality that did more than what they were supposed to, and it went through. And they were collecting 1 mil more than what they were legally allowed to collect. Nightmare. So always refer to code and always look at the manual, but always back it up with code. So has anybody in here had their fire companies come to them and ask to increase the tax or anything for them to have more money, or EMS? EMS is a big one right now. EMS is statewide. It's an emergency statewide. You can't get anybody to work to take the training. It's hard to even get the training. It's become a problem. It's become a problem all over in your rural, in your urban, in your suburban areas. It really is. So there's all kinds. You can have debt service. You can do road machinery if you have to buy a piece of equipment. And there's you can look libraries, but you can't create a tax. And that's just, the list keeps going on. Now we're going to get into the non-real estate taxes. Your Act 511 taxes, they vary depending on the size of your municipality, and they're often shared with the school district. And that's where we're going to talk about, where we talked about EIT, LST, and Bill and I are going to go into that a little bit more. Most common non-real estate taxes are your earned income tax. 1% shared with the school district. 5.5 goes to the school, 0.5. Earned income tax, okay? Earned income tax is for everybody that works. Okay, so that's why the push is Pennsylvania is becoming primarily a 65 and over state. So what earned income tax, and why we say if you want to gain more money from earned income tax, because it's a limit at 1%. The only two ways to do that is try to talk to your legislators to have it legislatively. But the thing that can be done right now is home rule. Is anybody in here a home rule community? Home rule is a long process. Home rule is something that you have to, the voters choose home rule. In where places are home rule, City Newcastle's home rule, Greenville Borough is home rule. There are several other places that are home rule, and they have enhanced the EIT tax. You're allowed to raise the EIT tax. And you also remove any limits from your property taxes. Home rule is a process. At first, how it starts is you have to elect a study commission and explore home rule. You have to pick the elected officials pick a 7, 9, or 11 member commission. You have to have that many people run. It failed in Aliquippa because they put it on the ballot, but they didn't get the 9-member committee to run. So it's done, it's dead in the water. It can't be put back on the ballot for 5 years. So home rule is a long process. DCED helps a lot of communities walk through the home rule process. One thing you'll get from home rule is people go, oh, I'm not voting for that, that's crazy. You can raise my taxes to whatever you want them to be. But they forget that the elected members who are making those decisions, the council, the supervisors, you all live there too. You haven't increased your taxes for years because you don't want to pay more taxes. Just because the sky's the limit doesn't mean that you're going to increase taxes. And Bill has some where these municipalities that become home rule. You set your own. You no longer follow a code book. You set your own. You set your own laws. You create your own. You create your own way of governing. Home rule is a whole other class. I'm not even going to go into that, but right now I just want to say that is the only way to increase taxes beyond your limits right now in the state of Pennsylvania is if your community goes home rule, and that is a voter referendum. The voters have to choose that. Your local services tax right now, Bill, do you want to talk anything about earned income tax? Yeah, because he has some
real quickly, Cambridge Springs Borough in Crawford County is a home rule community. So their tax rate, I believe it's 1.5%. For the for the municipality. No, it's 1.5 total, and 1% stays with the Cambridge Springs Borough, and the other 0.5%, as Terry mentioned, goes to the school district for that. In the home rule communities can, as Terry stated, can raise it, the earned income tax and the LST. The LST is still restricted unless, we're probably going too far, but as it's mentioned, $52 is the maximum right now. But if a community is distressed, as Terry, I think she mentioned that, or we were talking about it, there's a legislation that a distressed community can raise their local services tax up to $156. And with that, the limit now for at a $52 rate is $12,000. When you get up over the $52 rate, you can go up to 104. There's some areas that did it at 156. City of Scranton is one that sticks out in my mind as one. The minimum exemption level is $15,600. So you don't necessarily, and again, this would have to be through legislation as everything that we're going to probably talk about, increasing the exemption level would be the difference that you're going to go from $52 if you're able to $104. You're going to lose some for anybody that has earnings between $12,000 and $15,600. And the couple that I looked at that we do collections for, it's basically will double your LST. Okay. So, with obviously because it's going 52 to 104, or triple it if it's going up to 156. But so the drop off in that $3,000, $3,600 extra exemption level isn't really that prevalent, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And earned income tax is just that, just to find the two differences. Earned income tax is for everyone who lives in your municipality and works, okay? But where Bill was saying about the $12,000 and $15,000, you don't deduct that, I'm sorry, that's LST. So anyone who works 1% of whatever they work. LST, local services tax, it's for the people who come into your community and work in your community, not live there, work there. Okay, so if you have industry or whatever, I always try to encourage people, if you're $10 now and you have any emergency or you have any industry, you can increase that to 52, which $5 still goes to the school district always with LST. And then $47 comes. And I remember, Bill, this kind of stuck in my mind because Warren County had him like, wonder if this municipality would go from 10 to 52. And remember, it was like $12,000 in extra income because they didn't realize. And people say, when you say about increasing your LST, if you're not at the maximum of 52, this is where I go. I take the devil's advocate. I always say, those people, you're not taxing the people that live there. You're taxing the people that come there, drive over your roads, use your emergency services. They're coming into your municipality work. And $52, every one of us buy a bottle of water, a cup of coffee a week. That's $1 a week. That is more than $1. When you start to say taxes. But that's where Bill was saying, but LST, it's amazing to me when I go into municipalities and there'll be people who work part-time and only make maybe $10,000. They're still taking the LST out of them. Remember, it's $12,000. If they didn't make more than $12,000, you don't keep the LST. You don't deduct that. They're exempt under $12,000. So that is one thing, but just remember, that's the difference. Earned income tax is the people who live there. LST is the people that work there. So those are the two different, those are how you want to think about it. And then remember, whatever you collect in local services, it's legislatively 25% of that has to go to emergency services.
Can I ask a question? Okay.
Sure.
So like the earned income tax, like I just didn't make sure I understand everything. That your taxes, like if I am working in Meadville but I live in Salisbury, my earned income tax goes to Salisbury, correct? correct? That-
No, it goes where you live.
It goes
Yes.
where, it goes where I live, exactly. So,
Yes.
but I'm working in Meadville.
Okay.
It's collected there, but the LST, I'm working in Meadville, live in Salisbury, it stays in Meadville. So you said the thing, so a distressed community can raise the LST?
It's a court process. They can, but it's every year they have to go and they can raise their LST and their EIT.
So you don't
But
have to be in Act 40.
You have to be in Act 47.
Oh, you can't just be distressed.
to be
Isn't it
deemed-
just, I thought it was like distressed and then.
You have
Act
distress
47.
pension. You have Act 47 is the only.
You have to be declared in
You have
Act
to be declared in
47.
Act 40, and there's criteria to come into Act 47. You know, a lot
Right.
of people, I get the calls all the time, we are in Act 47. Well, you have to meet this criteria.
Yeah.
You know, so there's certain criteria you have to meet to go into Act 47. And we don't want to, no one wants to be in Act 47. But yeah, you're right. The EIT is
Okay,
collected it goes to where you live. The LST goes to where you work. So that's it. And like I said, legislative maximums. The only way is either home rule or everyone needs to start talking to their legislators. Per capita, a lot of people call it the nuisance tax. A lot of people have done away with it because it's hard to collect. $10 and is shared with the school district. Realty transfer tax, it surprises me how many people don't participate in this. Realty transfer taxes, anytime the property is sold in your municipality, 0.5% of that should come to you. But there's a lot of people that don't participate. Amusement, mechanical devices, they're all different ways of taxation that requires a little bit more in depth. But like I said, visit the DCED's Library for Taxation Manual for more information. Right now, this was my biggest question because remember, everything's gone up 30%. All your utilities, basically, cost of goods, cost of services, it's been about an average of 30%. So people did have to raise taxes, real estate taxes this year that haven't done it for a really long time. And I got the question like, how do we do this? You know, because nobody's done it for a while. And who collects them? Elected tax collector always collects the real estate taxes. Anything attached to real estate, they collect. Tax collection committee within each county-wide appoints. You're with Berkhammer. That's Crawford County. That's who collects your EIT. All other taxes are collected as the board determines. LST, whatever. Some people opt to have Berkheimer collect their LST. Some people send it to their tax collector. It's the elected officials. It's up to the elected officials at that point who does it. But I can tell you that they have a better way of trying to collect that LST tax because you have no idea who works where, who's going. They already have the system. You can't beat that system. So, and I'm not taking anything away from a tax collector by any means at all, none. If you have one little industry that there's 10 people that work there and you basically know everybody, then yeah, that would make sense if you want to keep that with your tax collector. When and how? It's done at budget. Okay, so if you're going to collect if you're going to raise your taxes, you do it at your budget. We're like, oh my word, we are running short on money. We hate to do this. It's terrible. We're going to have to. But I always say this, people don't notice a $0.25 mil or a $0.5 mil. People do notice 5. I had one municipality, because they've used their reserves for the last 5 years, and it was a larger city, they had to raise their taxes 9 mils. What do you think those residents thought? But that was the only way that they were going to catch up. So, and I always tell, and this is just a little, I always say this, and do it the same time the school district raises theirs. You know, because nobody knows, who's raising taxes. But anyway, it's determined by your proposed budget how much you're going to have to raise them. And how do you know how much to raise them? What did I tell you that everybody should know next time I come here? Thank you. Millage and assessed value. And tax increases in a second-class township are always by way of resolution. Unfortunately, in boroughs, first-class townships, and city, it's an ordinance. What does an ordinance mean if you're going to raise taxes? It takes time because you have to have that information submitted to DCED by December 1st. So you better, if you're a city or borough, you better start thinking about tax increases come September. You can't do it. I have so many small boroughs go, what do you mean I don't have time? They call me in December, well, we're gonna raise taxes. Well, you gotta do an ordinance. There's advertising requirements. And how you report it, it's done through Munstats, through municipal statistics reporting. You get onto our reports, you do your tax information form. When you change the pre-populated, if it said 4 before, and it goes, you're raising it to 5, and you put 5 in there, it's gonna ask you for either that ordinance or that resolution to be uploaded. But I always say, make sure your county knows, make sure your tax collector knows, just don't end there. And why December 1st? It's because Bill's familiar with this, it's real time. Meaning that, especially this is important with LST, things like that, where employers will get on our website and see how much they're supposed to be deducting from their employee through this for LST. That's where it's mostly important. People look at it to know what is the tax rates. So anyway, it has the form opens on November 15th, but you should have it done by December 1st. So any of you are thinking about a tax increase this year or ever, this is how you have to do it. It comes and it's done by that way. Now, yeah.
What happens if you don't go through the proper procedures to do a tax increase?
Okay, so I'm Jack the resident. I always say this, and I come in and I'm always, where's your ordinance? Where's your resolution? I want my tax money back. You didn't do it the right way. You know, people, your residents are your police, and we all have them. You know, we all have the ones that complain. We all have the ones that are going to start looking into things. Did we do it right? It's all about transparency. I teach transparency. Always be transparent. Follow rules. I always say, if you don't want to be an elected official and you don't want to be an administrator, because you have to be able to read and enjoy reading, because that's the only way you learn. Knowledge is the best transparency you can have as an elected official, as an appointed official, whatever. Knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. The more you know, the less mistakes you made. And I hate to hear the term, well, that's the way we've always done it. Oh, no. You don't know what you don't know. You know, so be knowledgeable. But yeah, if you're not, I had one municipality where they increased taxes by way of a motion at a meeting. They increased it by way of a motion. They had failed to be coming and going. They hadn't filed a Munstats report for 3 years. So for 3 years, a resident could go back and ask for that tax that was collected illegally. So think about that. People hate paying taxes anyway. If you make a mistake by doing your taxes, are you gonna, you want the resident coming in and, can you imagine that nightmare? Because you have face, penalty, discount. How did they pay those taxes? What's the reimbursement? It would take a mathematician to be able to do that. But taxation is important. It's important to know. It's important to know why it's important to your municipality. And I would have to say that probably the majority of the people sitting in here, most of the time it's earned income tax is probably higher than your assessed value with your real estate taxes, your earned income tax. And that's why people want the increase in the earned income tax, because it's your 65 and your retired people that are struggling to stay in their homes and live within your communities. They're not the ones that are going to pay the enhanced earned income tax if it would increase by either home rule or if legislation would ever catch up. You know, it's the working person, and none of us notice that 1% now. You do 1/4%, and I think Bill has some statistics here on like what it would be if earned income tax got increased by just 0.5%.
So one of the things, and I believe Gretchen provided this PowerPoint last month on the LST, which was an excellent job to kind of show everybody where the LST was back then, where it is now, and what it can provide. So what I did is at year-end December 31, 2023, I ran a couple reports. We don't collect all of the LST throughout the county, but we do do, maybe 10 or 12. And what I did is since Gretchen provided the numbers of what they collect in LST, and again, this is theoretical. If you were able to raise your LST to $104, which would be double, based on Gretchen's numbers for the city, it would be they collect 460,000 now, I believe. Yeah, 460,000. So they would be able to collect $920,000 for the earned income tax, and this is just in the calendar year 2023. Now, again, the earned income tax is only on your residence. 0.5% out of the 1% now goes to the city for Meadville's case. The other half goes to the Crawford Central School District. If there was legislation available that a municipality could increase double their earned income tax rate, so they would bump it up to 1%, it would generate $1,145,000 as opposed to $460,000. So if there's I don't mean this as a fight, but in order to get the capabilities of doing that, it has to be done legislatively, because the cap, as Terry mentioned, is set at 1% unless you're a home rule community or you're a distressed community. So, and one of the things too with the LST is that there's smaller communities that they don't have that industry. And one of the things I believe that we're kind of looking at increasing sources of revenue is for emergency services. And every community, could obviously has that same issue with emergency services. So even like in Jill's case, the Westmead Township, their LST collections were $84,000 in 2023. If they had the capability to increase that by 0.5%, it would be an additional $639,000. Okay, so the numbers are there. And one of the things, and going back with Gretchen's PowerPoint, she said the increase in LST in 2024 would be 3.43 policemen. If and that's at a $134,000 a year salary and benefits. In 2023, that would be 8.71, almost nine additional policemen that could be done just with that tax. Now, and again, with the increases, and this obviously would have to be through legislation to cap it. And I mean, after Jill had sent this, we were supposed to be here last month, but different circumstances, I wasn't able to make it, and Terry obviously wasn't either because she wasn't here. So I've been thinking about this and saying, okay, and not for Berkheimer's purposes, because there would be arrangements that's in our contract with the Crawford County Tax Collection Committee that if the rates went up completely through legislation or other means, then we would make an adjustment on our commission. So it's not like I'm looking just for like an extra commission, although it would be good. But the legislation, so you could theoretically, again, say you would increase it, and as the increase in the LST now requires 25% to be spent on emergency services. If they put a cap at 1%, an additional 1% for both school districts and municipalities, a municipality could say 25% of the increase would go towards emergency service. The other 25% or 25% could be a reduction in property taxes.
Are you talking? You're talking. At one point, you're talking like doubling the LST from 104, or maybe from 52 to 104. But then you're saying of 0.5% increase. You're just talking about.
I'm just talking about the earned income.
Okay.
So theoretically, if you raise the, and we'll just use this Meadville situation. Okay, they're at 460 now with their LST. If they doubled it, theoretically they would have $920,000 increase, and then they could use that as necessary. If they if the ability for the city of Meadville and all other municipalities, when I'm talking about Meadville, would be able to raise it another 0.5%, the earned income tax. And again, that would only be on the residents, and no matter where they work, it would come back to the city. It would be an increase of $1,145,000. So at that $1,145,000, if you worked with the legislators and said, okay, out of that, X percent of that would go back to emergency services. The other could be used for general fund purposes, whatever the situation, however the legislation. But again, that it's a tough sell, so to speak, if that's the right word to use, for the legislators to make that move, because when Act 32 that came into effect it was passed in 2008, they were trying to change the legislation to combine the collections and do different things with it since 1965 when it was enacted. So it's not like it's an easy, and even when it got down to the nitty gritty, so to speak, it was very close to being passed. The LST was backed out of it, and then there was a bunch of other things. So I'm not saying that it's going to be an easy battle, but in my opinion, and again, it's just my opinion from looking at this over the month, the only real source of added income would be an earned income tax. Because the LST, like in a place like Meadville here, with a large employer base, it would grow substantially. Rose in Salisbury, their LST is $36,000. Some of these communities, like say West Fallowfield, they're $1,400 in their LST. So that jump isn't going to be significant, at least in my opinion, again, to help fund emergency services, which you're looking at. And I may be speaking incorrectly on that subject, but I kind of thought that was just a general idea of one of the things for the COG is to look at ways to increase and enhance everybody's emergency services. Because I know I lived in Erie County, in Mill Creek Township, and the Mill Creek Township was always a volunteer fire department. They had 4 or 5 of them, and our population was like 52,000. Now they can't get the volunteers to come for the fire department. So now they're moving to a paid fire department, part-time and full-time pay. So with an increase in the earned income tax, that would be more substantial, in my opinion, again, to help all communities as opposed to the LST.
I had one community when they were talking fire services and a fire tax, they actually put the question on the ballot, would you be in favor of a millage increase to provide funding to your fire company? And the people, well, yeah, because you want the fire company to come and then they increased, they added the 3 mil fire tax. But where we're talking is in those small little communities. If you're only assessed at $3 million, 3 mils is only going to bring you $9,000. It's a set of turnout gear. I'm with my fire company. A certified wildland firefighter, and I grew up in a fire chiefs and grandfathers and dads and brothers, and I have 2 nephews with fire services degrees, and so I understand the struggle there too. But a set of turnout gear right now is $5,800. One set of turnout gear. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle everywhere. Pay attention to your budgets this year. And, and like I said, legislation, it would have to get changed, but home rule is available to you for those increases in the taxes. And that's something that DCED, we don't promote home rule, we don't promote mergers, we don't promote anything. We're just here to assist you if that's an avenue you decide to go down.
What is the time frame if someone were to get a study commission elected? What is the normal time frame for a home rule committee?
Once it goes on the referendum, and the elected officials put that on as a referendum, and they determine how many they want. It's 7, 9, or 11 member study commission. If that's approved at the ballot, then that study commission has 10 days to organize, and they have 9 months first 9 months to study the forms of government, like their form of government. They study their what they're looking at, neighbors, home rule communities. We set up a whole plan for them to talk to these people. And then that study commission determines yay or nay. Yes, we're going to proceed, but they have 9 months to do that. Most of them already know they're going to proceed if it went on the ballot. So most of them will do it in 4 or 5 months. They'll say, okay, they send the letter, we're going to proceed. So then they proceed into drafting a home rule charter. You draft the charter, you draft the code book, and then it's public. You have public education. You have 9 more months to do that. So you have a total of those 18 months till it has to be back on the ballot again for voter approval. So from the time you start talking, it's usually about a 2-year time period until the ballot goes and until it goes into effect. And then there's a transition because you have elected officials too. So there's a transition period of transitioning into the home rule community. But if it fails at the ballot, it can't go back on for 5 years. So it's a process. It kind of scares people, and you have to have dedicated people that will serve on that government study commission. So, but like I said, DCD's there to guide. I've sat on a lot of study commissions, and so you form a lot of relationships. Is there any other questions for Bill and I?
How do we get a copy of that?
Of this, it's online. So if you just do a DCD taxation manual and pull it up online, even at your office, if someone can print it for you, I'm still like, I like a book, like I like to print, read it, flip the pages. I said I'm one of those kind of people though. I have a book on Kindle, I have a book on Audible, but I have a book that I like to read and flip the pages too. Showing our age.
I'd be curious to know like how you perceive they were able to change the tax law in 2008. Because it seems like, I guess I do feel strongly that it
For
comes.
the LST,
The LST.
it was a long,
That's what
arduous process.
Yeah.
I know, well,
We fought for
yeah,
years and years and years.
well, that's it.
And it was
Yeah.
mainly it was us and some of the other third-class cities that did it because
Yeah.
no one else had any incentive to do it.
Yeah.
And the hard part is elected officials who start the fight come and go.
Yeah.
So then things lag, and we were just, and just as an example, we were talking just at in Harrisburg this week. It was 11 municipalities were going together on a comprehensive plan, and they were doing a intergovernmental cooperation agreement on this comprehensive plan. Took 22 years for a comprehensive plan. They should have developed 6 comprehensive plans in between there, but I'm just saying wheels in government are slow. And when Bill said, and I say, remember I told you, I get the ones that go, yeah, Terry, that's a good idea. I think we can change that in the code book. But then I get the ones that go, oh, Terry, that's a heavy lift.
Yeah.
Whoa, Terry, back off. Like the gentleman there knows me by my hello. Okay, Terry, what do you want today? But it's because I had the experience of sitting in the seat too, trying to know it here and try to make it work here. Struggle. It was a struggle for me, I'll be honest. So, but it is a heavy lift. And also too, you have the legislators that say, why would we do that? You have home rule out there. We made an avenue for you.
Such a, doesn't it seem wrong? Like, oh, you have to declare bankruptcy so that you
The
can
biggest thing that worked with
control your city.
with the LST was that it was the fight of saying that with the language, you had the option to go to $52 because that was the legislators did not want to say they get elected every 2 years, so they didn't want to say, hey, they didn't want the perception.
Taxation is political suicide.
Yes.
Anytime you talk, because I remember when we went to war, and the first thing I said was, we were asked to talk about taxes, but don't kill the messengers. We don't make the laws, we just abide by them. But you're right. And anyone who really is interested, do look at Pell's study. It's not 1965 anymore.
We sent that along last
Yeah, it's a great, when they were doing that, it's a great, and they have some lobbying power that they really try to, but like I said, taxation is political suicide. County reassessment is political suicide. I mean, it is,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, it, usually it takes the school district suing or something, you know. And it happens. I mean, it happens, and we all know it. It's just the way that it is. So, you know, the county has to do a comp plan every 10 years, mandatory, but there's nothing for reassessment. So, like I said, don't kill the messengers. I have to live by all this. That doesn't ever mean that I agree with all of it. But I'm here to help you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys coming and just, you know, explaining all that very clearly.
One real quick thing too. As long as it took about the LST, and you mentioned, you know, an option into it. Like if I was pushing my legislator, I would go for the 1% cap, the increase from 1% to 2%, have it shared by the school district also, with the school district having, if they enact it, to lower property taxes. So, you know, like as an idea.
Thank you.
That's,
Well, and like LST, could be this much.
yeah.
It's a
Thank you.
sliding scale.
I think that's an important point to
Yeah.
mention is it's up to each municipality.
Yeah, they still
or
have
each
control.
entity, because honestly, what you're proposing is potential earned income or LST increases. But I'm personally am a believer in maybe smaller government, more efficient government. So you hate to just always make it so easy to have a tax increase. So to me, I can understand where people don't want to take that, even though you say contact us and it's something we can help you with. It's not always the answer, but it gives the option for different municipalities.
Absolutely. Like I said, we're not here, I don't push home rule, I don't push merger, I don't push anything. I'm just here to assist you because it is daunting and it can be very, very confusing. But in some municipalities, it's their only way. It's the only way. It's, you know, it's not because they want to raise taxes, it's because they want to survive. Because they're providing all the services. Like the city of Meadville provides every service there is out there. And the city of Meadville is just like all other third-class cities that are a county seat. I think 48 or 52% of their property that they are assessed taxes on is tax exempt because it is the county seat. And that's a struggle for the third-class cities that host, anyone who hosts a county seat, even boroughs or whatever, it's a struggle. Because that's where all your services are, that's where all your nonprofits are, that's the central point. And it becomes a struggle. And each, like you said, it's not a one size fits all. It's not a one size fits all kind of government either.
Well, thank you very much. And Bill Burkheimer does a great job for the whole county tax collection committee.
Yes, thank you.
All of us, we've really seen an increase throughout the whole county. Everybody's earned income and LSTs have increased since Burkheimer's been doing it. So I think that's a good point to mention. And then the tire recycling event, on to the next thing. Terry, the tire committee, we're still moving
We're
forward.
moving forward, but we haven't done anything since our last meeting, so we're gonna start getting together and get it planned.
And the grant's been applied for, but no, we haven't heard back yet, so.
I haven't heard, of course, somebody else has done that, and they haven't, like I said, we haven't met
Right.
to discuss this yet. The date was set, but I don't have that information in front of me, so.
September 21st is on the agenda, and that's
what I thought. I
Saturday
thought it
in
was
September.
but I
So.
wasn't sure. So we have some time to put it together, that we haven't started that process.
Where do you usually hold it?
Pardon me?
Where do you hold it?
Up at the fairgrounds?
I guess that's,
Yeah.
Any other business? Anybody have anything they want to bring up? I do have just one note, and it's an email's been sent out to pretty much all the COG members, plus roadmasters, anybody who's involved in purchasing or that kind of thing, road projects. We're having the meeting February 2nd at 9 a.m. That'll be for the upcoming road project for 2024, if anybody wants to do any paving. Seal Coat, Seal Coat actually, Rose from Salisbury is doing a separate entity as far as a separate project. But if it's something that you can't tag on with them, you can do with us. So that'll be February 2nd at 9 for anybody road involved or any kind of purchases. We talk about diesel fuel, big quantity things that'll help entities kind of work together to get a better price. Anything else? Anybody? Thank you. There's a lot of new faces here. This was good. So, and thank you, Terry and Bill. Next meeting will be on April 18th, and it'll be at the Vernon Township Building. We're going to try and move them around. So, anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I would adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, John. So we're adjourned, and thank you all. I guess all approved, right?